Black Egypt on top. All them little clowns and frauds, they won't stop. So I speak like I'm chic and the Diop. When they tell us stop saying it's black, we not. I refuted your Egyptologist, she hot. I just hit her with some primary she ain't got. She a PhD, yeah, we know now. I made the PhD, take the video down. Met Padisu Neil. If you apply yourself, they can't see you. Used to be my main man till you got beat up. Having fights over Egypt. Fights over Egypt. Huh? Fights over Egypt. Azar black, I said black. Boris black, don't say that to me. Azar black, I said black. Boris black. Fights over Egypt. Black gods. Imagine our archers, we killed the black silk. It was all black when the pyramid built. Wanna learn like us, ain't a course for that. Can it mean black silk? It ain't a source for that. It ain't a source for that. Now they made that up. Nubian wig had a white braid that up. Garfield wanna know why I'm ahead of your player. When I was studying, you was selling credit repair. And when you wrote your little book, why wasn't the editor there? When I see you, I'ma say, Nick, come here. Stumbles and fumbles when bumping his guns, but he don't wanna run with the nigga got humbled. And then he said, yeah, you can say that. You can say that. The experts say you can say that. You can call them black people, but I'm saying though, why would they say that? We match our archers too, and I be hella patient trying to walk with you. But now we just debating when I talk to you. I think cats just hating cause I brought the truth. Yep, you brought the truth. Kim, it don't mean no black land is more like Black City, cause of the black people in it. I hit up Egyptologists and make them admit it. And I keep receipts. You're like Zahi Hawass, you need your ass beat. You a Darwin and charlatan doing all you can to stop what's black and marvelous. That Jones. That's right. Come on. Alright, what's up with the people today? Told you I got a little bit of time freeing up. I don't know why they popped this video on my stream. It was, listen to this, man. This popped on my stream.
Folks, this weekend the National Power.
Let me show you.
Here's what President-elect Trump's staff had tweeted in response to that controversial video. Quote, President-elect Trump has continued to denounce racism of any kind, and he was elected because he will be a leader for...
Go back. Yeah, here we go.
They're going to Central Europe. They're going to Western Europe.
You said built.
Yes.
Who built the railroads in America and allow for us to have expansion out west? Who built that?
Yes, a lot of Chinese people.
No, like, you said the operative word there was built. Built. Who built? Okay.
Who designed them? Who had the genius to imagine railroads? Europeans.
Wait a minute. The genius to imagine railroads. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said.
Are
built.
there railroads in Africa?
You said yes. You said built.
Why?
You said.
Us.
Hold on. You said. Okay. First of all,
that is absolutely true.
First of all, the greatest genius when it came to the building of the pyramids. Do you know what
those are? White people, by the way.
Who are white people?
The Egyptians are not African. I'm sorry.
Do you know where Egypt is?
Yes, it's in North Africa.
Okay, stop. You stop right there. You just said that you said the Egyptians are not African.
Are white South Africans African?
Wait.
Okay, see? It's still out here, so we're going to talk about it. Matter of fact, I'm going to play an old school cut. Let's go. When it was Kemet, Black Egypt, it was a Nile Valley civilization. Black Egypt. It wasn't no Mediterranean culture like and subscribe. You gon' get tormented for 4 minutes if it's war when it just said Jeshurun got a false door in it. The Nubian flow, that's before Kemet. My Kim T got rubies and gold, and it's fit for a Kushite king. But what it look like, the green Sahara ring bearer bring terror to your satellite kingdom, so they do not bother me. Scarification look like wavy line pottery, Kush with the black top pots. I'm rap top notch, and I could kick it till your laptop stops. I'm like Tahaka, Shabaka, or Bianchi, the author's a father. Any cocky, I came down and out through the lands of Kush, living a pre-dynastic pharaoh way and marrow way. Kerma, Khartoum, or Simna by the fifth cataract. Now I put the fifth wheel on the Cadillac. So much ride, a white man couldn't battle that though, they had to paddle back. Black Egypt. Black Egypt. Black Egypt. You gotta look and see where the now started. Black Egypt. How it was easier to go downstream than upstream. And where the river flowed. Don't look at the color, look at the culture. Black Egypt. What you know about Dynasty 00? Roll through with Ship Suheiru on the standard. Ta-Nehisi, Sudanese G's. Try to test me. I'm an archer from Taseti, the squad ready, so I'm stepping in with the extra thin leopard skin. A tail on the apron with my crown on. You can crack jokes, but I ain't the one to clown on. Hey yo, Egypt was black, and that's a fact. All you little suckers need to step on back. They tried to throw us off, but we kept on track. We started doing research, but you slept on that. And with Kemet, it don't matter what the name mean. If it's a black culture, then that's the same thing. Race science is a lame thing. Ever since Nubian times, I let the chain swing. How the first nome of Egypt was Taseti, but Taseti was Taseti already. Yep, it meant the land of the bow, and when Egyptians needed archers, this is where they would go to recruit them. I got arrows and I'll shoot them. Who them fake pharaohs? I uproot them and usurp them.
What's up, Ty? What's up, Immortal? What's up, RTP in the building? Lyrics, Christoph, what's going on?
Black Egypt.
Anybody else in the building, go and say something in the chat so we can get it popping.
Black Egypt. Black Egypt. Black Egypt.
That's what it is, and that's what it's been. But I was listening to this; it was crazy.
Africa.
Okay, stop. You stop right there. You just said that you said the Egyptians are not African.
Are white South Africans African?
Wait. Yes, they are African. See, okay, to be African means you come from the continent of Africa. So if you come from the continent of Africa, that's who you are. So that means you're an African. So you do know. Do you also deny science that man originated from Africa, or do you say that's false science?
What are you talking about? I mean, what are you referring to?
I'm talking
science.
Archaeology. I'm talking biology. I'm talking science. In terms of the where did man originate? Where scientists, white scientists.
Egypt was an amazing civilization. It was not created by black Africans. I'm sorry.
It wasn't. Who created it?
People who are white.
How are people?
You can look at. You can.
Oh my God, dude! This interview was 8 years ago. 8 years ago. This dude is on there saying so much debunked nonsense that I was like, damn, this is crazy. He didn't even say Arabs or some Mediterraneans. He say white people.
It wasn't. Who created it?
People who are white.
How are people?
You can look actually look at art, and they differentiate between races.
I gotta ask you a question.
You can actually look at art. What is this hand movement? People who don't know, I mean, nah, that ain't true, but that hand movement, it accompanies a lot of whack arguments. You never seen people doing this shit right here when y'all talking? Look at the body language. What are you trying to show you, the size of something? Man.
Question: how do you
from ancient Egyptian art?
You do know those were black people. You do know.
They weren't.
You do know from science you can't get black from white. You can get white from black. You do know when it comes to evolution.
What?
When it comes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do you never studied science?
I see what you're. Yes, I have.
No, so but
I mean, I'm not a scientist.
Are
you?
But man originated in Africa. Yes or no?
That is a consensus. Yes.
Okay. So if man originated in Africa, which means that they were Africans, then all of a sudden, when you talk about the amazing works of the Egyptians, they were people of color. I know that's a little rough for you to handle, but I know you want to hold on to that somehow thinking whites built the pyramids, but I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, we did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because first of all.
Crazy. So how many people watching the show think, not other than black people, but in 2025, you think white people built the pyramids? I'm going to open up the link for you. Well, you don't, I mean, anybody I'm asking don't have to be willing to debate that. But if you think so adamantly that that's the case, then I would love to have a discourse with you today and see what you basing your misinformation on. Now, you could be like, I mean, this is, they call him a white nationalist. I thought we lived in a white nation. Like, this shit is, you know what I'm saying? Everything, all the laws, ain't no black laws, ain't no Mexican laws, ain't no, everything made by white people. I'm not saying that is, you feel me? So what the hell they be wanting? I don't even get it. All right, I'm looking at a few comments. I see a there is no Middle Egypt. I don't know what that's referring to. Peace, bro. It says, I've been asking about the 19th dynasty for a while. Did the priests pick Seti the first because he was from mid and not up? Oh, okay. So, well, now, what Ampu says correct scholastically or linguistically or with the sense of terminology. But if you mean Middle Egypt just geographically, like he was from maybe the 10th, 11th Nome or what have you, I would not know. I would not be qualified to give you that answer. You know, I wouldn't know. I have not researched why the priest picked Seti. I would just be like trying to come up with an answer, you know? But yeah, this is crazy. So then you got people like, well, I only found some of these detractors on people like Chief X page. And when he used to be streaming, I would go in his chat just because I knew that all those detractors was there. So I just show up like the Black Panther. Pop right up in their chat and be like, what's up? And they'd be sitting there detracting and lying and talking all this stuff about how, just like this dude. And there was one person on there called Egyptologist 7. I just seen a video from Egypt. Here we go, Egyptologist 7 right here. And all this person, so-called Egyptologist, does, this must be a person hired by the Egyptian government to disseminate this type of information. Y'all know it's real, right? So y'all know that with this new R. Kelly stuff they talking about, where R. Kelly supposedly got some hit on his life. Do y'all know they got evidence that the feds sent information to Tasha K, allegedly, right? They say that allegedly the feds sent information about the R. Kelly case to the biggest gossiper on YouTube, Tasha K, so that she could disseminate information that would get back to the girl who was so-called holding R. Kelly down. And it worked. But that's not my point. That's not why I'm talking about that in this video. What I'm talking about is we have now proof, no matter what the issue is, that, like I've been telling you for a long time, these social media agents, because see, you don't have to know you an agent to be an agent. If they using you to further their means, you could be an agent. So they used her as an agent in that case to disseminate some information, which was about R. Kelly. That's irrelevant to this. We talking about the Egyptian government and their stated intent to sponsor Neophaeronism. as we see Mahakala just said in the chat, Fairness, to sponsor Neophaeronism. If we ain't familiar with what Pharaonism is, and it is an idea that they thought of, it was first spawned, I think, about the 1920s or 1930s, where the people who lived, see, there was a pan-Arab movement. A pan-Arab movement. Just like we got a pan-African movement, there was a pan-Arab movement moving in the 1920s. And the Egyptians opted out at that time of the pan-Arab movement and said, no, we ain't about to do that. And then they was like, what we about to do? And they came up with Pharaonism, which was the idea to say that they were attached to the ancient Egyptians. Historically, like, oh, let's just say all this old stuff that's around here, let's just say it was ours. That's a real thing. But Neo-Pharaonism is now an act by the Egyptian government to get online, on social media, and combat what they call afrocentrism, or black people saying that the ancient Egyptians were black. So you don't even want to come on the show right now after that, because everything I just said was true. And whether or not you know you're an agent of that, because just like I told you about the feds getting that Tasha K, just giving her information because they know she a big mouth and she gonna allegedly, and she gonna get on there. She's not allegedly a big mouth. She is a big mouth. Allegedly, they gave her the information, right? And I mean, they got the facts. They got the documentation showing it. You could just go watch a video on that, though. So that happens because governments understand that TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, these are propaganda devices. See, one thing I was tripping off, I was just eating the other day, I was tripping. And I started thinking, I wasn't even eating, I was sitting right here. And I started thinking, why? The first thing, you could say the US government, you could say Europeans, you could say whatever. But why the first thing certain people do when they get technology is they try to weaponize it, no matter what it is. Like, you could bring something new into existence, and the first thing certain people start thinking is how they could kill people with it. And if they can't kill people with it, they find another use or application for it. But that's really how technology goes. All right. I'm just saying, with the people who handle and control and disseminate technology, the first application is always military. And that means they want to see who they can kill with it first. So I start thinking, well, that's dumb. Then I start thinking again, and was like, well, actually, that's smart. Right? Because if new technology come out, you need to figure out how someone can harm you with it. You don't necessarily have to have the intent to harm others with it. But these governments normally do. Like, if they figure out, oh, we got some new technology, you could do this with it, well, they make that weapon and store it in the cut. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm gonna start getting too far off point, right? Because I just like to build, and I got a little bit of time, I think. You know, when you think you got time, then you be like, oh, I should have been doing this. All right, so this agent of Egyptian state-sponsored Neophaeronism, Egyptologist 7, look, Osar Imhotep, Afrocentric, 2 months ago. Afrocentric grifter has an important message for you. Right? New. The Green Sahara was a barrier to gene flow. First of all, this is a bunk page. It ain't even doing nothing but mismeasure of a jerk, deceptions of King monologue. One thing I noticed about Egyptologist 7, who is well aware of me, that person steered clear of me. I done ran them up out of so many chats. Right? And I'm right here saying that because most of these agents, we hunt them down online. We know their pages, and we engage them in the public discourse and make them look stupid. Like Roland was trying to do on that one video we was just asking, but he didn't have no information. He just was being adamant about what he knew. He had to go all the way back to man coming up out of Africa. So what? That's hella long time ago. You got to get some information if that's what you... Well, he probably didn't know he was going to wind up debating that. So look, I ain't even seen none of the slander, and I don't know how they package it up. So I'm about to just check game real quick.
And one of the things that I wanted to highlight was that people from Syria, people from Palestine, and the like have been settling since pre-dynastic times in the Delta.
See, what is this? Afrocentrics do not have a single pyramid, temple, or hieroglyphic letter to their name. What does that mean? Huh? This type of, I invite this type of slander to me. Right? I mean, if you want to go there, like, come on, let's get it in. But what I would really like to invite is a discourse. Because ain't nobody got no facts. To the contrary. But ain't nobody looking at this, but if you have looked, right? I started noting the whole Neophaeronism movement. And y'all remember this video that they love to share. Goldie was sharing
Here
this
is
video.
scientific proof that ancient Egyptians weren't black. The afrocentric movement claims that the great pharaohs were actually what they called black or Central Western African, and modern Egyptians.
So now you know, huh? Y'all thought this girl was just at the house. She could be. She could be exactly that dumb, but she probably has something better to do. But the Egyptian government hired what they perceive as young people who will go hard on social media to get out here. I got proof of that. I read the article plenty of times on my page. It's by the Tahrir Institute of the Middle East. All right, so it didn't even got nothing to do with us. For instance, they wasn't even writing the article for Smash to be reading it. It was writing to people of the Middle East, talking about how the Egyptian government is sponsoring Neophaeronism. And here is the fruits of it. Y'all be getting fooled. Like, we gotta stop being like, goddamn, everybody, some of us could stay being stupid. Some of us could stay being dumb. But the ones who wanna, like, come on now, if we see shit, we got to even go further. So then how do we act upon that? Like, you combat it, right? The way that we actively do it. I mean, this is nothing. We smash shit like this. We didn't even have trolls amongst our own people who had their big boy britches on and made themselves ultimately look stupid as time goes on. Now that the heat of the fight is over, you sit there talking, just trying hard to sponsor Neophaeronism. But look at the efforts they've been giving towards this. And another thing you'll note, they always gonna have one of these Kemet. They trying to take that name back, Kemet. So she Kemet Queen, or this person who posted this is Kemet Queen. Well, I'll pull up the article, and they even talked about how they going after that.
Are just the invaders. Here's why this is false. A study done in 2017 by 2 German universities examines the DNA of 160 Egyptian mummies whose lifespan over 1,300 time period. This was the period that Egypt was heavily conquered. The results were shocking. First of all, they found that the genes of ancient Egyptians resembled Eastern and Mediterranean people. The genes did not change and were consistent over the period. That means that Egyptians were able to preserve their genetic pool and did little to zero mixing with these conquerors. What was even
Oh my God, you heard that? Did little to zero mixing with their conquerors. Now y'all remember this article? See, the funny part is on social media, you ain't even got to get your sources, do nothing. Y'all remember this article she talking about, and you know how badly it was received by the scholarly community, right? They was like, this is some nonsense. But it was made for the purpose of people to get on social. See, here's the thing. This is how you do it. Write a BS article, to have somebody get online that's young citing the BS article. That's easy.
more shocking and ironic, how they found that the mummies had 0 sub-Saharan African gene. Modern Egyptians had 15 to 20% African gene.
Just to let y'all know, she's talking about the Suleiman et al. 2017 survey that a lot of suckers tried to stand behind. But if you go look at what the scholars say about that, which we got plenty of clips on that I can probably even play one right now, I will.
A recent study was conducted by Dr. Anna Maria Makota. Published in 2005, the study sought to test the quality of methods of rehydration for mummified tissue. In the study, samples were taken from a pool of 273 mummies. Dated from the New Kingdom, samples were taken from each organ of each of the mummies. During analysis of the skin samples, biologists noted that skin sections showed particularly good tissue preservation. Although much of the epidermis had already separated from the dermis, the remaining epidermis often was preserved well. The basal epithelial cells were packed with melanin as expected for specimens of Negroid origin.
Let's stop. Everybody understood what that just said. The specimens was packed with melanin as expected, or something was packed with melanin. The epidermis was packed with melanin as expected for subjects of or specimens of Negro origin. Right? These fools tried to act like you don't understand what that means. And that this video was wrong. And that this article that they didn't have, that I proved on TV because they kept trying to find the article, because it cost $63 to get. Then they all got the article. What's the name? I ain't got the damn article.
In essence, the epidermis was consistent with black or Negroid African groups based on the density of the melanin. This objective conclusion gives a silent nod to the tireless efforts of Diop and his protégés, who always knew that given the opportunity to test, the ancient Egyptians would be proven to be amongst the same ethnic stock as their African brethren.
Now, that article did prove what Diop said. He said exactly that. He was like, yo, why don't y'all give me some DNA of some specimens of these mummies, a little bit of mummy so I can run this melanin test. It should be enough left in between the dermis and the epidermis for us to detect, how much melanin these people had. And they found out that those areas, baby, how many, 50 years later, when they finally ran the test, but they was running a test for something else. This was a byproduct of their test. They simply was running a rehydration test, trying to figure out the methods on rehydrating old dry skin. And when they tried 3 different ways. And one of the ways revealed how much melanin was left up in between the dermis and the epidermis. Right? These are skin layers, right? How much melanin was left there. And the melanin, they say, was what you would expect for a Negro person. But this is why King's monologue is a default, an archer by default. Everybody who get online and knocking down all these Neophaeronists and exposing their fraud, y'all archers. Y'all can't even help it, right? That's just the proper analogy. And that's what he is. Shout out.
No, they were dark skinned, but they were not black. But they're not Negro. Because look at the lips of the Negroes.
Hey, y'all remember when Goji used to say this? He used to always say, who I said, they're not nigger. He didn't say, but he used to say, I used to trip off that all the time. Tell me, man, I know y'all be noticing shit. I ain't the only one. First of all, who would quote this Zahir Hawass quote, but then he say they're not Negro, but when you quote it, you say they're not nigger.
Like that, and the nose like this. It's not really the Egyptian origin at all. It's different, completely different. And this is why you cannot connect to the Egyptians.
Hold on, let's just listen to this statement again and remember that he's talking to a black woman. He looking her in her face saying all this.
No, they were dark skinned, but they were not black. But they're not Negro. Because look at the lips of the Negroes like that, and the nose like this. It's not really the Egyptian origin at all. It's different, completely different. And this is why you cannot connect the Egyptian civilization with the African at all. It's different. Or from Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, it's different, completely. No, they were dark skinned.
Old, he's got ousted, I guess, or he's out of his position. But he was like the old, Minister of Antiquities or something like that, right? This is what he's telling everybody. He on the top. This what all of his pamphlets got to reflect. All tourism documentation needs to reflect this. He is a chief agent of modern Pharaonism. He is like the general. I'm not going to read that whole article, but I will pull it up so I will source it for you. Yeah. What ancient Egyptian document, picture, anything got a top lip like that? Real talk. Pull up. Now, if y'all want to debate, pull up a pharaoh, a monument, Akhenaten, anybody with a top lip like that. Looked like he ate his top lip.
But they were not black. But they're not Negro. Because look at the lips of the Negroes like that, and the nose like this. It's not really the Egyptian origin at all. It's different, completely different. And this is why you cannot connect the Egyptian civilization with the African at all. It's different. Or from Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, it's different.
So you have to remember how useful your work is. And when, sometimes I'll be like, man, nobody would hear that. Nah, I'll get reminded. I might see something come down my stream like people still, oh yeah. Let's get back on.
Oh, I hate really showing people what I want to get in the future because other issues, but I had to show y'all. When people saying that the ancient Egyptian ain't black people, why is like a brown skin cover on the Egyptian Book of the Dead?
People say
nobody can get that perfect brown skin tone like black people. If so, makeup, but no, that's a black woman, that's a black person. We see it. Oh, I hate
Daniel.
Look at
Daniel Cormier. I'll beat the fuck out of your fat ass too.
I saw that Jake.
Most places we go, we try to leave.
One of these kings that they were working for really liked them and decided, I'm going to make the Aztecs part of our ancestry. I'm going to give them my...
I just was tripping off that, just looking at that. Right? Let me open up some stuff. That was the craziness. Academia, like that dude, that Roland Martin, he's a white nationalist. He don't know nothing. Academia ain't really like, man, why this get stuck up here? They ain't really like tripping off that right now. You feel me? Like, ain't nobody saying that dumb stuff no more. And I'm gonna show you in a series of videos. But first, let me go home and see something. Can I see my what happened to old school clips? They took that off? It used to have clips over here. Let me see. Oh well. Oh, here you go, your clip. Alright, I got hella clips. No, oh, you know, we got all kind of clips. I ain't gonna bring the channel down. I'm gonna go like this stuff. So I could be on the big screen. Right? I just want to show y'all some of this stuff. I was thinking about some scholars. But I'm looking at all these clips I chopped up over the years. So people, we know people who tried to use, let me show you.
Hairstyle of...
I'll put it on big. So we know people who tried to use these Fayum mummies, right? Over the years, they tried to whip this out. It's like, look, this was the ancient Egyptian. This was some white people who lived in Egypt. Some Romans. I mean, if that's what y'all want to claim for white, I don't think they considered themselves white. But if you want to claim that, right? This is found on a not a sarcophagus, but like a wooden nabunk or casket. And they have images on them. But it's from a time period that go all the way into AD times. Right? Or close to. But we can listen to what he says here.
Hairstyle of jewelry, the use of gilding as an attribute, all of these can help us to form our conclusions on these dates. So, at the end of all this, these Roman mummy portraits, for they are Roman, were not present, none of them can be dated before Tiberius, and none of them really can be dated to the late 4th century AD. So,
y'all hear that? They are Roman. Don't ever let nobody show you this or none of the Fayum mummies and act like this was what the ancient Egyptians looked like. Let's hear it again.
Present, none of them can be dated before Tiberius, and none of them really can be dated to the late 4th century AD.
Well, one of y'all who in front of y'all computer who wish to be helpful, look up Tiberius. I'm going to look it up too and see if y'all can beat me. Nah, just look up Tiberius because they can't be dated before Tiberius.
So Rome, as we've just been talking about, acquired Egypt in the time of Augustus, and within that period, shortly after, these portraits start to make their appearance on mummies in Egypt. And they disappear around the time that Christianity is taking hold in the Roman Empire. Hair, style of jewelry, the use of gilding as an attribute, all of these can help us to form our conclusions on these dates. So, at the end of all this...
So we're going to take out all of their weaponry. 42 BC. See? None of them can be dated before. Thank you, Art, taken for granted. You get your props for that. None of them can't even be dated before Tiberius, 42 BC. If you want lugs, if you want bombs, watch my show. You can beat the brakes off these clowns. This is how you use this. It's so simple of a dismantle. It's like a boxing punch somebody about to teach you. Somebody whip out the Fayum mummy portraits and you just hit them however you want to word it. Just remember, it can't be dated before, none of them can be dated before Tiberius, and that's 42 BC. We could all tuck that in our Rolodex of dismantling these Neophaeronists. That's another arrow right there. Bow, you just shot that out the sky. Talk about, man, shut that shit up. You can word it any way you want to. Because that's a complete shutdown. I mean, God, we talking about ancient Egypt. You pulling up shit that can't be dated before 42 BC. Put that in your Rolodex, the shit in your quiver. You know what I'm saying? Slap that arrow in your quiver. I'm about to give you hell of them. We're just going to show you why they stay away from this channel. You feel me? They be like, oh, man, what about the Fayum mummies? Shut up. Let me see. I remember this was Rick Kittles. Let's listen to this.
So, if we were to use haplogroups to define races, it would be extremely problematic just based on that. But even if it wasn't the case, we still couldn't use it. Because throughout different continents, we see that areas where populations go in and out of that area, of that geographic area, you know, the movement of populations within an area or the movement out of an area. That's what we call these transition zones. And these transition zones have a blur in terms of these haplogroups. And so it's not easy to use haplogroups to define races.
So we got a geneticist telling all you haplogroup hounds that you can't use no damn haplogroups to define race. Peow! Peow is the sound you made as a kid when you was getting up out of there and you couldn't go no faster. You just had to go fast with your mouth.
For instance, Dr. Charles Finch used to call the Middle East, he called it the Northeast African extension. I don't know if you guys remember that.
So you can't use them haplogroups. Uh-oh. Geneticists, man, we got all the data. We've been looking at this for so long. We'll just show you people saying everything. Like, stop tripping. Let me see. All right. How about this?
Today in Egypt, the archaeologists often refer to, and I've been there, to connections between ancient Egyptian culture and the Sumerian culture and the Crete culture and the Persian culture. Yet when you visit Egypt, especially around Aswan in the southern part of the Nile, you see mostly black people.
Yes.
Today in Egypt.
Now, let's not be misled by when you say the south or the southern parts, because the way Egypt has been romanticized, we start to think in the way that we accept it now, the way it's been built up, we think that in ancient times, the Delta and everything was what it is now. But it wasn't like that. The South, where you see the black people, is where Egypt started. Actually, the first nome of Egypt was called what? Everybody who watched this show know what the first nome of Egypt was called. And we know it existed before Egypt existed. And it was still called that in the language that became to be known as the ancient Egyptian language. So just check this out. Where they do that at? They don't do that in the Hittite Empire. They don't do that with the Hattic language and the language of the Hittites. So what I'm saying is this. In Anatolia, or in the Hittite area, right? Check this out. There were some people who lived there before the Hittites, and their language is a language isolate, meaning it ain't related to the language afterwards, right? They had a language there before the Hittites, and they had their capital, Hatti, or Keta, called by the ancient Egyptians, before the Hittites got there. Just like the first nome of Egypt was already, and I would call it a kingdom, before Egypt ever got established. Furthermore, you can add some of the work of Maria Gatto to that, where she kind of like notes the procession of the, I would say, unification. And she said the fighting went down river. I mean, not down river because it's reversed. The fighting went up river, which would be going south to us first, starting from about the fifth nome. The unification of Egypt was between like the fifth nome and the first nome. And I just told you the first nome was Ta-Seti, which existed long before Egypt. You could take Ta-Seti back to Tziali still with, I think, Gunther Dreyer threw back to like 3600. Or, yeah, it might have been him who threw it back to like 3600. Right? It says Ta-Seti on it. Ain't no Egypt, ain't no Kemet, ain't no nothing. It's just the people who some call Nubians in the area that would later become Egypt. This is the south areas he's talking about. So when he say this, now let's talk about it. Didn't know Emmer effing, because I was about to cuss. Didn't know body ever in the history of Egypt, ever in their life, turned to the Mediterranean for protection. I repeat that. Did not one pharaoh, all the way up to you could say Cleopatra's the only one who did. And I got to talk to y'all about that. Not one pharaoh ever. She wasn't no damn pharaoh. That's why. I'm talking about the real people. Right? Not none of the invaders. You could go back to whoever you want. When the beef went down, Nobody went to the Mediterranean for protection, to get troops, to do nothing. They all went to the South, period. So what did they say to cast this off in Egyptology? That they would build slave armies. Huh? Nonsense. Think about that. You would have to have like modern day, something modern to pull that off. You can have 10 men with bow and arrows and you're going to make an army out of 100 men. But you're going to get them arrows fire so slow. Bro, you tripping. Like, come on now. That probability is just nonsense. And we got the primary documentation, so we don't even have to let them lie about that. We just go back to the stories of Harkuf, stories of Winnie, stories of the people who said, look, we got beef with these Asiatic sand dwellers. That's not my translation. So how is you talking about the ancient Egyptians wasn't black, and then when you go into their text and you say they Mediterranean, but you go into the ancient Egyptian text, they lightweight. I don't want to say despise, you know what I'm saying? They lightweight didn't like people from the Mediterranean areas coming into their civilization. They didn't like it. It was a big ass problem. We can read all the documents. They forever wanted to kick out the Asiatic sand dweller. You ain't got no documents where they forever wanted to kick out the Nubians. They had similar beefs and fights with Southerners, but they just knew that they lived amongst them. They was there before them. It wasn't, you can't find that. You can find Simroset in the 12th dynasty saying something that was mistranslated by Egyptologists to make you think he's saying keep the Nubians out on his Simna Stela. He ain't saying that, and we could talk all about that. The word is Nehesi, and it's a word for Southerners. If Simna is so far down in the Nubia that you would include the major contingency of black people who live in the arable, not in the desert. Because it was only so much place. You could all live along the river, but all of the river don't cut out a floodplain for agriculture and shit, so they kept on having to be archers. This is half the reason why they would go to the south. They were shooters. Tarseti. If y'all understand what this stuff means, it tell you right to your face. Tarseti is the land of the shooters. Challenge it. You're going to come up with, your challenge is going to say the land of the bow. So you have to agree. A bow is useless if you're not shooting it. The word seti literally means to shoot in ancient Egyptian. But they talk about a seti bow, which was a particular type of a bow, we think. So this is why they had to go to the south. So when I put this back on, it'll help us get a greater understanding of what he's saying. He's not saying nothing like America, like black people relegated to the south and they living in the whatever. No, this is what he's saying.
Today in Egypt, the archaeologists often refer to, and I've been there, to connections between ancient Egyptian culture and the Sumerian culture and the Crete culture and the Persian culture. Yet when you visit Egypt, especially around Aswan in the southern part of the Nile, you see mostly black people.
Yes.
Today in Egypt...
You want to talk about, I want to go to, let me see, can I see? UNESCO. See, what white people do when they take over black areas, They flood that shit. Remember that. I'm telling you, young dude, for the future when you ain't got no OGs, just know that shit right now. They flood that shit. Especially all the troops and shit, they flood it. Right? They flood it. They do it on purpose, but I want to find you what they do. Well, I researched too much history for it to realize this phenomenon. You could just go all over America. I got lakes. They stole the land from William Alexander Leidensdorf in California. He had a 35,000 acre land grant. When he died, General Folsom contacted his family, gave them about 8 racks, bruh, for 35,000 acres. On some swindle shit, gave them 8 racks in the Caribbean, got them to sign the contract. And now we got Lake Folsom. Lake Folsom, California. If you want to go camping, you could go to one park called the Negro Bar. You wonder what the Negro Bar is, bruh? This was black people getting gold in California before white people. They used to be mining in the Negro Bar on William Alexander Leidensdorf land when they built a fake lake over that shit called Lake Folsom. So if you dive down, you can go find some of the Negro towns right there in California, right up the street. So that's not me making that up. That's me knowing what's up. And you can just talk about all the lakes that was old flooded black towns. But let's talk about this one because we talking about Egypt. So I'm gonna see if I can find it. It's an old UNESCO footage. So I'm saying, I shouldn't be saying flooding, UNESCO. All right, not flooding of Nubia, Lake Nasir. Yeah, there we go. UNESCO, UNESCO. I want y'all to see this video. This is an old ass video though. It was like from the, maybe I probably won't. Is this it? Archives. Yeah, here you go. The world saves Abu Simbel. Now look at this. They was trying to flood this. And Cass was like, nah, bro, they put together, well, UNESCO was put together long before, oh, y'all not seeing that. UNESCO was put together long before that, right? But check this out. They wanted to be, now let's talk about the greatness of dams and waterways and to being able to control power. But you don't you can route where you're gonna build a dam. Everybody knows. You know what a river does? I'm a river person. I be in the river. Like I will totally be comfortable falling off my jet ski in the river. I'm not no place close to panic. Maybe if I didn't have my life jacket, it'd be different. But I fish in the river. Rivers meander. You'll never get to see a river meander. It just does it over thousands of years, right? They start to develop the water starts to develop these natural turns in the river and stuff, right? And so obviously, some of the first pharaohs, they say, this is how we learn how to build canals, right? Because they would say, man, if I just carved a little plane right here and cut it up to the water gonna run into the area I carved out. Well, then if you start to thinking, well, if you build a big enough canal, you can divert the flow of the river completely in a different direction. So you can't say you just gotta flood black places. You can't say, oh, it just be in the way all the time. Black people land just be in the way, and you just gotta flood it every single time you want to build a reservoir. Well, let's see. First of all, that's hella funny. Because cats be walking up to these monuments. I'm not talking about this one exactly, right? And they be like, how that's such a straight line? How you know that straight line that you investigating wasn't cut with a saw from the people who had to move these monuments when they wanted to flood the area to build Lake Nasir? Because you clearly see it happening.
For many centuries, the rock-cut temples of Abu Simbel lay abandoned at the edge of the Nubian desert. The great temple, long buried beneath the sand, was not discovered again until the year 1813 by the Swiss Orientalist Johann Ludwig Burckhardt. The temples are located on the bank of the Nile, not far from the Sudanese frontier. The smaller one is dedicated to the goddess Hathor, and its facade is adorned with figures over 30 feet high, portraying the pharaoh Ramesses II and his wife Nefertari.
Now let's stop. Egyptologists will love to tell you that they built Abu Simbel this far down in the Nubia because they wanted to show that they was conquering some shit. Seriously? They don't do that nowhere, really. But a better argument was an ode to the homeland or to their, you know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can't always be like so Egyptocentric and be like, oh, since they conquered the people from the south, because they conquered everybody. Where they monument facing those directions? Why ain't no pyramids in the Mediterranean? But you got pyramids in the Sudan. Don't talk about later nothing. Because if you had the knowledge of that, why we don't see none of the remnants of that in the Mediterranean?
The temples were carved out of the...
Let's go back, dog. Do you see how big these monuments is? You can't even tell me that them noses was blown off in ancient times. Because they couldn't even get up there, bro. Stop playing with me, bro. Stop playing with me. I'm saying, though, if you had the force of people, right, to build this, then the next king could have had a force to get up there on some scaffolds and knock off the noses. Here go another one. You know, we be doing the research over here. It ain't no ancient Egyptian text that say you knock off the noses of a statue so that that statue can't breathe in the afterlife. They made that up in Egyptology, y'all. Ain't no text that say that. You see how much stuff they'll make up and then just tell you in order to what? Fortify a theory that they wasn't black.
And its facade is adorned with figures over 30 feet high.
So when I have black people who study this very good try to argue with me and be like, oh, it's because, you know, they don't, so they won't breathe in the afterlife. All you gotta do is ask for a source, bruh. Show it, if you got it. It says something similar. I don't know, I ain't seen no text about smashing off the noses for, I ain't seen no text for smashing off the noses so that they can't live in the afterlife. So let's see if we got that text.
Portraying the pharaoh Ramesses II and his wife Nefertari. Temples were carved out of the rock in about 1260 before Christ by this famous king of the 19th dynasty, in the latter period of Egypt's long golden age. Ramesses is also portrayed 4 times in front of the Great Temple.
How you do that, man? How you do this, by the way?
Each of these colossal figures is over 70 feet high. Members of the royal family are dwarfed by the giant image of Pharaoh. The reliefs on the outside walls show us something of the life of man 3,000 years ago. 2 deities of the Nile unite the lily and the papyrus to symbolize...
I think Jurg might have a text for that one. So we're going to see what the text says about smashing off the nose in the afterlife.
The union of the kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt. Apart...
Look at the ones that got their noses, too. Looking dumb African.
From the figures of Ramesses' wife, Nefertari, and her favorite children.
Like me.
The temple facade has symbolic statues which represent the monarch's greatness and the respect he commanded among his enemies. The inscriptions relate the exploits of his reign.
I want to get to the flood report, man. I mean, this is going to take hella long.
Whom he dedicated the temple, with problems which he would have had difficulty in understanding. The area in which this rapidly growing people can live and grow its food is limited to the narrow strip of fertile land on either bank of the Nile. Egypt's famous granary has now become too small. The construction...
Yeah, I know the whole... That's what... yeah, I know that, Jurg. I know all about the breathing of life from the nostrils. We even see the ankh put up to the nostrils. But that helped them form a theory that these noses were broken off because of... so that they couldn't breathe through the nostrils. We all know about that. And so then I say, okay, well, where they say that at? That's all. And then it was hard to find, yeah.
The Sadil Ali Dam meets a vital need of the people of the United Arab Republic. An enormous reservoir of the waters of the Nile will extend far south into the Sudan. It will be possible to irrigate much more land and greatly increase agricultural production. The vast new supply of electric power will help new industries to grow. Of course, the building of the dam has had its drawbacks. Hundreds of thousands of people had to be resettled. Irreplaceable monuments of the golden age of Nubia would have been destroyed if something had not been done.
So y'all see, basically, look, all the stuff that would have been, I mean, they just showing you all these monuments that would have been, but they're not talking about how the people who lived in these areas were the people who founded Egypt.
At the last moment to salvage them. The threat to the monuments of Nubia alarmed the world. The United Arab Republic appealed to UNESCO for help. UNESCO launched an international campaign to save this heritage of the past, and more than 50 countries agreed to share the financial burden. A race against time and the rising waters began. Many ways of rescuing the Abu Simbel temples were suggested. The plan ultimately agreed upon.
All right, well, you can watch the whole thing, but it's kind of good to see too. But it come back to that same flooding. You know what? I did a video called "Flooded Black Cities." Played all of them in one video, and YouTube straight took it down. I didn't even know what was up with that. I think it's because you know why? Because I used the video, and somebody actually tagged me for using their video, and their video was about flooded black cities. I was like, damn, that's crazy. They was tripping off their content. But it's the facts, man. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like... They've been saying this since the 60s. It's just people out here nowadays on social media being ran by a government. All right, I said it was a government-sponsored campaign. Everybody's seen me show that before. Let me show it again. So you can see like what you're dealing with. is sponsored by somebody's state. Let's see if I can find this article real quick. I'm just looking for this article. Excuse me. Here go another article, but I want to find the right one. See if this is it. No, this is a different one. We'll read that too. Just don't mind me. Give me a second. Here we go. All right, I got two articles. One I've never even read yet, and one I have read. First, I'm going to refer to the one I have read. Right? And this is from the I was saying Tahrir. Tahrir? I don't know. Tahrir Institute for the Middle East Policy, right? Now you see, the first picture you see is what? Heckin' modern Egyptians dressed up as ancient Egyptians. But that's their whole, I'm going to make myself smaller. That's their whole get down. You read this article, you'll find out that they're literally state-sponsored money. I make sure that my people who watch this show know, right? The state-sponsored money to do what? To combat what they call afrocentrism. Let me type F and I'm going to put AFRO and you see it right there. Look, they called to cancel afrocentric concerts was held in Aswan. So when the Tsar Imhotep and them conference got canceled, y'all didn't know that that was really a hit? Dang, let me come back on the camera. That was really a hit, bruh. In this new social, well, I don't even need to come on the camera. Look, they just talking about combating Afrocentrism all throughout this article. And this is what they call Afrocentrism. They call black people making a claim at ancient Egypt Afrocentrism. Right? Read the article. It's a very good article. I'm going to show you the title of it again. But I don't want to read it all here because I read it hella times on my show. Egypt's racial nationalism, Neophaeronism as a tool of the state. Oh, that's what's up. He said, you don't see nothing about destroying noses, but they said it would keep some healthy. To be able to breathe, yeah, possibly so. All right. Let's check this out. African arguments. This is my first time at africanarguments.org. Hopefully it's solid. They're talking about Neophaeronism, Egypt's ultra-nationalist, and the hidden hand of the state. See? This is by Dalia Ibrahim. Canceling Kevin Hart's show last February exposes the virulent racism, lurking beneath the revival of popular movement long considered pagan. Interesting. You are our slaves and captives. You are not welcome to Egypt. Stop blackwashing our history. These are a few examples of flagrant racist posts that took Twitter by storm last February in Egypt. Many Egyptian tweets decided to launch an online campaign. Nope, it wasn't many Egyptian tweets. See, this person ain't up on it like we up on it. It was a state-sponsored campaign by agents of the Egyptian state who sponsored Neophaeronism. All right. So they launched an online campaign to cancel Kevin Hart's stand-up performance slated for Cairo Stadium in March 2023 over his Afrocentric inclinations. Y'all see that? Egyptian tweets accused Hart of falsifying ancient Egyptian history, citing an alleged statement where Hart called for educating black kids in America about the time when black people were kings in Egypt. So they against that. So they saying black people was never kings in Egypt. Like they don't even want to give it. They denying all parts of it. I've seen a question by Brother Flag that someone's answering. Let me see. Does one spend your afterlife in this world or the netherworld? How does striking the noses of the statue in this world affect you in the netherworld? And the answer given by Vision was the Ka inhabits the statue. The Ba goes to the Duat and beyond. After paradise is achieved and the Ankh is manifested, the Ankh can go visit the world in whatever forms it wants. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Yeah, and that the statue is like, he said for the Ba, and I don't want to contradict that right now. No, he said the Ka. I don't want to contradict that right now. I do know that essence of the individual is left and to be protected in the statue. This is why they would put food in front of the statues and other impractical things. So if they were so impractical to put food in front of some of these statues that would hold one's essence, it would probably be, they probably would think that if there was damage done to the statue, that damage would be rendered in the afterlife. I'm not saying that authoritatively. I'm just reconciling it. It's what seems to be so. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the end goal of these discussions. What's up, Vince? It's just correcting history. So let me show you something that we started off with on this page today. And it was just a shock that this was information.
As far as
let me see. I said rolling. It was just a shock that even 8 years ago, some people make these type of arguments. Check it out.
Be a leader for every American. To think otherwise is a complete misrepresentation of the movement.
Check this out. People say stuff like this.
Well, they're going to Central Europe. They're going to Western Europe.
You said built.
Yes.
Who built the railroads in America and allowed for us to have expansion out west? Who built that?
Yes, a lot of Chinese people.
You said the operative word there was built. Built. Who built? Okay.
Who designed them? Who had the genius to imagine railroads? Europeans.
Wait a minute. The genius to imagine railroads. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said.
Are
built.
there railroads in Africa?
You said yes. You said built.
Why?
You said.
Us.
Hold up. You said. Okay. First of all.
That is absolutely true.
First of all, the greatest genius when it came to the building of the pyramids. Do you know what
those are? White people, by the way.
Who are white people?
The Egyptians are not African. I'm sorry.
Do you know where Egypt is?
So Vince, Bill, now this is a white nationalist, right? So that's already crazy, but I ain't mad at white nationalists. Like, I ain't mad at that. You just don't have to include all the pseudo bullshit in you wanting a white nation. Like, that men can be men. If you want something some way, cool, but you ain't gotta spite and undercut all other people to get your shit popping, right? But what I'm saying about this is a viewpoint, a negative, false viewpoint that is being used to fuel his white nationalism. A false reality is that the ancient Egyptians was white. So even just from me showing you this one video, you could probably see the usefulness and the end game, which I said is correcting history so that people who could get their facts right and that people can properly be credited in the world correctly. Because if white nationalists can say that they did everything on this earth, they can start to substantiate their pseudo theories about how they better than everybody. Right? And then they can start teaching their kids that, and it could help to promote their racism, which don't really help the world. Like, loving yourself is cool, being on your own shit, I ain't mad at that. But doing it based on a bunch of fake shit, that's the main problem with letting people run around say the ancient Egyptians was just white people. Like dude's saying right now. You see how he has a really big problem with it. He didn't even want to say they was Middle Easterns. So I'm going to let this play again so you can see the usefulness of our dialogue.
For Europe, they're going to
built.
Western Europe.
You said built.
Yes.
Who built the railroads in America and allowed for us to have expansion out west? Who built that?
Yes, a lot of Chinese people.
You said the operative word there was built. Built. Who built? Okay.
Who designed them? Who had the genius to imagine railroads? Europeans.
Wait a minute. The genius to imagine railroads. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said
Are
built.
there railroads in Africa?
You said yes. You said built.
Why?
You said
us.
Hold up. You said okay. First of all,
that is absolutely true.
First of all, the greatest genius when it came to the building of the pyramids. Do you know what
those are white people, by the way.
Who are white people?
The Egyptians are not African. I'm sorry.
Do you know where Egypt is?
Yes, it's in North Africa.
Okay, stop. Stop right there. You just said that you said the Egyptians are not African.
Are white South Africans African?
Wait. Yes, they are African. See, okay, to be African means you come from the continent of Africa. So if you come from the continent of Africa, that's who you are. So that means you're an African. So and you do know. Do you also deny science that man originated from Africa, or do you say that's false science?
What are you talking about? I mean, what are you referring to?
I'm talking archaeology. I'm talking biology. I'm talking science. In terms of where did man originate? Scientists, white scientists.
Egypt was an amazing civilization. It was not created by black Africans. I'm sorry.
It wasn't? Who created it?
People who are white.
How are people?
You can look actually look at art, and they differentiate between races.
I got to ask you a question. How do you
from ancient Egyptian art?
You do know those were black people. You do know. You do know from science you can't get black from white. You can get white from black. You do know when it comes to evolution.
What?
When it comes.
I see what you're saying.
Dude, you never studied science?
I see what you're saying. Yes, I have.
No, but
I mean, I'm not a scientist, are you?
But man originated in Africa. Yes or no?
That is a consensus, yes.
Okay, so if man originated in Africa, which means that they were Africans, then all of a sudden when you talk about the amazing works of the Egyptians, they were people of color. I know that's a little rough for you to handle, but I know you want to hold on to that, somehow thinking whites built the pyramids, but I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, we did.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because first of all, they were building things in Egypt while white Europeans were still in caves. That's a fact.
That's
a fact. Okay,
sure.
But I'm gonna still go back to, so what you're
Good evening from New York, I'm Chris Hayes.
That's a fact. So I'm gonna go back to some of the better parties and I'm gonna play. I ain't playing these whole videos. Y'all done seen them a bunch of times. But it's a time for me to pop this on for the new viewers who think that anything that we're doing is just based on our own research. I mean, it's based on others' research too. Check it out.
A hierarchy of race like that developed by Morton Glidden and still deployed today by white supremacists cannot be sustained if not one but two great black civilizations arose in Africa at the dawn of history. It is therefore entirely appropriate and even necessary to confront constructions of race for Nubia and Egypt in the recent past and acknowledge both civilizations as African and black.
So did you face any of that type of backlash or harsh feedback from your stance on ancient Egypt?
So yes, but interestingly, I haven't received any harsh feedback from Egyptologists. When I go around and I give talks on this subject, the Egyptologists who've been in the audience of my talks are very receptive, and they think that this is really important work and that I need to keep forging ahead with it. But I have gotten negative feedback, especially over email from Egyptians. So it's an interesting conundrum where there are some Egyptians who will tell me, I mean, these are people I don't know who are just like finding out how to contact me and send me an email and say, what you're doing is wrong. The ancient Egyptian culture was not a black culture. Modern Egyptians are not black people. What you're doing is dangerous. You need to stop saying this. which of course I'm not going to stop saying this, and I try to explain what my work is about, and I also try to explain, you see, our perspective in America on what Black is different from a lot of the rest of the world, and so I try to explain our American context of that word. But yeah, I've definitely gotten some harsh feedback.
First off, the Egyptians, of course, were African, and we have evidence from Herodotus and other sources that Africans tended to be Black, that they were a range of colors that would constitute Black today, and they were actually, the Greek words that are used for them is Black.
Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that the ancient Egyptians were not Black, as we Americans perceive it. They were. The way we define Black, with mixed race one drop rule, the way we define Black as a positive thing, the Egyptians were Black.
So you're suggesting maybe these people migrated north?
Yes, or their culture did, and them. Really east to the Nile Valley, east and north.
East and north.
Yeah,
I see. So today.
So let me ask y'all something. I ain't going all the way to Nigeria, but if they migrated east, where were they? I just want a simple question. If they migrated east, then they were west, right? I'm just saying.
In
the Green
Egypt,
Sahara,
the archaeologists often refer to, and I've been there, to connections between ancient Egyptian culture and the Sumerian culture and the Crete culture and the Persian culture. Yet when you visit Egypt, especially around Aswan in the southern part of the Nile, you see mostly Black people.
Yes, yeah, and we know from the anthropological evidence that the people just predating the dynastic civilization in the Nabta Playa region were black African people.
I can sympathize.
Now, shout out to the people who got this information and ain't done nothing with it. You know, they tell us that you should not spend your time just absorbing information that ain't useful, that you can't apply to nothing. You know what I'm saying? Since I've come into this knowledge, I've been happy to learn this as a man, right? Especially as a Black man, to learn, okay, there's some stuff people been lying about that's just verifiable, right? Because to confirm the lies is even better. Because you be suspicious about hella shit you can't confirm. When you get the knowledge to confirm that you've been had, that someone telling you just a falsehood about history, then the first question is, why are they telling the falsehood about history? Not why are you correcting it? But the question is, why then did they tell the falsehood about the origin or who the ancient Egyptians were? If it's only racism, see, that shit racism be petty, bruh. It gotta get bigger than that. So you trying to tell me the only reason why you lie about this shit is racism? God, then that's like one of the strongest forces out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people just do monumental shit on earth. Yeah, true. It is true. You can look at all of the murders and everything, right? That's crazy.
Sympathize with the impulse to sort of, to be very strident, to be very argumentative, to be very certain, to act very certain about the Blackness of the ancient Egyptians, because for the longest time, the very longest time, there was this prevailing idea that Black is Africa and Africa is less than, right? That no matter what happens, no matter how you cast it, anytime you fall on the wrong side of that dividing line between Black and not Black, even not between Black and white, whatever's coming from that Black side is going to be less than. And it took people being willing to challenge that orthodoxy, and sometimes in a very ill-informed way, right? Sometimes, it's just people coming up and going, I feel like this, and so I'm going to say it and make it right. And it turns out they actually were in some ways, right? Because now we can look at Egypt and say the ancient Egyptians are an African civilization. These are people that, by and large, we probably would have looked at and thought, oh, these are Black people.
When it comes to the 25th dynasty, a lot of people are going to commonly call them the Black Pharaohs. You see it on...
man, this is just overkill. So it's kind of like why nobody ever want to do that debate challenge, right? Because they'll get bombarded. We got presentations. I'm gonna just go into the presentations. When they talk about how I do this one over and over, is because I don't really understand it. I learned a lot from when I wrote my last book. Let me see. Right? And when they talk about the Greeks, talking about the ancient Egyptians was Black, dude, another Jew, stop letting them act like it was only one source. I'm putting them on the screen. I make it hella easy. This is why they run from this show. This is why you safe over here. That's why I need to stream up. Oh, I ain't trying to do that. Hold on. I'm trying to do this. Y'all just heard him say Egyptians are not Arabs, not Africans, despite the fact, well, he didn't say that while we was watching him say that, right? But you can verify all of these sources. I got this from a secondary sources, and a lot of these sources was actually brought to the forefront when I don't think it's in Sheikh Antijob's work, but it could also be in his work. But it was more, I think I sourced his work in my book, but it was more in his discourse at the UNESCO 1974 event that discussed the peopling of ancient Egypt and the decipherment of the Meroitic script, right? Now, we understand Zahi Hawass now. He is one of the chief agents of Neophaeronism, trying to a thought-up, devised movement. All you gotta do is Google it. A movement devised in the 1920s for the Arabs to say, since the Arabs of Egypt wanted to, I don't want to say the Arabs of Egypt, the people of Egypt, since give them how they want to be dignified, or how they want to be identified. That right? And this is about identification. They did not want to be identified in the pan-Arab movements. And so they said, well, we got to come up with this. So you can just read the documentation on it, and now it's over. How could you argue beyond that point? Telling me the modern Egyptians is the ancient Egyptians when we got the paperwork. It's like having the paperwork when all right, let's do a paperwork party. But I'm getting distracted. While I put these sources on the screen, I'm going to pull up another, and I'll do research on my other monitor and get this paperwork ready for y'all. Right? And the paperwork we want is on Pharaonism. And so we're going to see when they really was like, yo, man, we should do this. All right, so let me see. Can I find it real quick? I'm going to take y'all to that first source while I'm looking. Why don't y'all read that right there? I'll read it for you in a minute, but you can read it for yourself. Lucian, a Greek writer, 125 to 190 AD, talking about Lysinus, describing a young Egyptian. And this is not me putting this in quotes. This is the source. And it says, this boy is not merely Black. He has thick lips and his legs are too thin. That's funny. His hair worn in a plait behind shows he's not a free man. That was just a statement, but we're here to focus on the fact that the boy was not merely Black when he describes this young Egyptian, but he had thick lips and his legs was too thin. Right? Damn, that article gone. I was trying to bring up the paperwork, but I'm gonna see if I can find more than just that article. Let's look at this next one. Y'all remember what Aristotle said about ancient Egyptians and Ethiopians? His remarks were not kind, right? Let me make sure everything's cool with my audio and stuff. I ain't looking. His remarks were not kind. Look at what he said. What, physiogenomics, whatever? I don't know, physiognomics. It says, too black a hue marks the coward, as witnessed Egyptians and Ethiopians, and so does too white a complexion, as you may see from women. The complexion of courage is between the two. We ain't tripping off his opinion. We tripping off what he think he's observed. He thinks he's observed that Egyptians were black. Too black a hue marks the coward as witnessed Egyptians and Ethiopians. Why they always say Egyptians before Ethiopians when they talk about blackness? That's another thing. I never heard them say Ethiopians and Egyptians. It'd be crazy though. So that's not just one, it's not just one Greek. It's not just Herodotus. Don't let people pull that sham. And they used their word, you know the word they used, right? Was their word that we get our word for melanin from. Melanus or something very close to that. Melani. We get melanin. That's where we get our term melanin from, which describes dark hues. Right? So it's not just one Greek. We're going to bang that home, but I'm still doing research on this other screen and trying to see if I can find, this might be it. I know this ain't it, but this might be good. The article I was looking for didn't pop up, so I just was looking for other things. But what about Diodorus Siculus? Y'all know what he said? Dang. Let's see. I'm doing much at once. Why did they took that article away? So I might just stop. All right, here we go. Trying to see if I can pull this up while we wait. Pardon me. All right, I think I got it. I got a page or two of it. All right, cool. This is good. All right, now, Diodorus Siculus said, they, the Ethiopians, say also that the Egyptians are colonists sent out by the Ethiopians. So if you were some colonists sent out by the Ethiopians, it's kind of like saying the Afrikaners are colonists sent out by the Dutch. You know, they still white people, right? The Afrikaners are colonists sent out by the Dutch. The Egyptians also say the Egyptians are colonists. The Ethiopians say also that the Egyptians are colonists sent out by the Ethiopians. Osiris, king of kings and god of gods, having been their leader of the colony. They add that the Egyptians, so do it say black on here? No. It just say that the Egyptians was part, a little colony of the Ethiopians. Right? But since I couldn't find, I'm going to stop looking for this other article since I couldn't find it. Yeah, thank you. But I thought that, all right, that is the word. But that's like a variation of it that I forgot what it meant, but you're right. At the root of it, we see melanin right there. what about Herodotus? This is the one they all talk about. And what we need to note here is Herodotus wasn't even trying to describe, he wasn't talking about ancient Egyptians. He mentioned them to describe some other people, the Colchians. And he made some conjectures at one point. And then in this, he says, my own conjectures were founded first on the fact that they were. So I'm trying to think what he conjectured about. Was it about that they were left there by Simroset? Simroset left a. I think he was talking about how Simroset left a colony of Egyptians in Colchis or whatever, and they were black. Now he's going to say here, and my own conjectures were founded first on the fact that they were black-skinned and have woolly hair. So he was like, because they got black skin, I do think that they might have been a colony of Egyptians. They have black skin. They are black-skinned and have woolly hair, which certainly amounts to little, since several other nations are so too. But further and more especially on the circumstance that the Colchians, the Egyptians, and the Ethiopians are the only nations who have practiced circumcision since the earliest times. Now that's very interesting because he lived about 430 BC. It's saying right there on the screen, right? And so the people he knew to practice circumcision at that time, since the earliest times, were the Colchians, Ethiopians, and Egyptians, but he also noted that they were black-skinned. This is the source that everybody think you're going to pull out. They don't think you're going to pull out this. Amani Anus? Now, I hope I said that right. Marcellinus, I guess. All right, excuse me for that reading. Marcellinus. So it looked like that's what it says. Marcellinus. I don't know. I say that all day trying to get it right. But anyway, the men of Egypt are mostly brown or black with a skinny and desiccated look. So this wasn't like he was trying to be like polite. The men of Egypt are mostly brown or black with a skinny and desiccated look. He wasn't trying to be cool. He just was describing them. Right? If you can read his name better than me, then source him. I'm sure you can. But all of these came out of Diop's work. Right? You got to check, verify. This is facts. I didn't dig all this up. I'm just showing it to you. Diogenes Laertius in Lives describes Zeno, the founder of the Stoic school, from 333 to 261. Apollonius of Tyre says of him that he was gaunt, very tall, and black. Hence the fact that, according to Chrysippus, in the first book of Proverbs, certainly people call him an Egyptian vine shoot. Why they keep putting black and Egyptian together? I don't know. Maybe that a lot of these people didn't even probably see the Egyptians, and they heard one of the Greeks who's supposed to have been known everything say that, and they probably was just repeating it all over the place. But it was not no text that say anything else. Yep, thank you, last griot. You feel me? Agon melanus. Yep. Excessively black. So they was not just black, they was too black. You know how when I be making my player, I was making boxers on the video game, and you know, your psychology is all over the place. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was making my black character, and I was like, okay, they got this saturation marker, and I see how they do it. They give you like one black hue, but then you can give all the saturation. I always turn the saturation all the way down. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I like making my players Agan Melanas. Like when I make the boxer, but then one boxer I made was so black, I was like, God damn, I gotta turn him down because I couldn't even see the details. Anyway, back to the studies. Real though, you ain't never created your player and been like, I mean, after making so many black people, I gotta make some white people when I be making my players. I got a full roster. But anyway, I'm getting off the point. Y'all like, what is he talking about? He said, better yet, Marcellinus. Okay, thank you. That's a good one. Marcellinus. All right, Marcellinus. Let's go back. What was I saying? I was saying Marcellinus. Oh, I thought I was saying Marcellinus. Probably. All right, let's deal with Diogenes. Lartius. You can say that right. I ain't tripping off my Greek. So we got Apollonius, right, of Tyre saying of him that he was gaunt, very tall, and black. Hence the fact that according to Chrysippus, in the first book of Proverbs, certain people called him an Egyptian vine shoot. So it wasn't one Greek. When it comes to what the Greeks said, tell them to shut up. Don't even mention the Greeks. You have somebody try to get a fake Greek scholar to come on and say that the word means green. Melanus. It don't mean black. Yo, you can really find that on Garfield page, dude. A Greek scholar saying that everybody tripping, this word means olive, like an olive color. That's what they came to that conclusion. Like olives ain't black. Y'all be seeing them green ones and try to associate that to something that ain't black. I ain't never seen nobody that was green. I have seen people that was black. Y'all took the olive and went green olives. Then let them put it all in the dictionary and then you was just fooled. I need to do the knowledge on green olives, dude. Was them even out back in the day? Y'all don't even know if them was out back in the day. Them came out, them GMO. Just for the facts, so they could do the facts. Make some Greek. They was trying to make them tan. They was trying to GMO some tan olives so that they could pull this one off. But I've been seeing hella black olives. Them good, but green olives is good. Anyway, Apollodorus, 2nd century AD, Greek philosopher. Now he's talking not about a real story here. I had to go read this whole story because I couldn't just take this source and not know what he was talking about. Egyptos conquered the country of the black-footed ones. They got black feet. They can have white faces. They got black feet. All right, at least he say black feet. Don't start thinking the black-footed is like the Sumerian black-headed. Dog, y'all gonna get that up. There's more to this story, but I just wanted to show this one. I'm not about to go all in on this one, but I'll tell you this is a mythological tale, right? And it was something about how they, I don't even want to mess it up. Egyptos was chasing down his brother. Somebody else gonna tell the story right here. Aeschylus? But I don't know. But anyway, in the supplements, Danios, fleeing with his daughters, the Danyards, and pursued by his brother Egyptos. So this is the same Egyptos, right? Probably meant black olives. For real though. The Danyards, and pursued by his brother Egyptos with his sons, the Egyptides, who seek to wed their cousins by force, climbing a hillock, look out to sea and describe the Egyptides at the oar afar off in these terms. I can see the crew with their black limbs and white tunics. Man. So they got black feet. They got black limbs. But, you know, that's all metaphoric. Feel me? Black limbs mean the arm. That mean the arm that you gonna, black limbs is like metaphoric. I couldn't think of one. What's up, Side 12? He says, what is your reaction to someone who says ancient Egyptians going all the way back to the early dynasties was comprised of blacks and non-black people? Yeah, that's true. It definitely was comprised of that. Right? Because you got people coming in that eventually turn into something from all directions. See, here's the thing. They call it an area of confluence. Egypt is an area of confluence, and they make you think it only conflew from one direction. I'm having my own linguistic fun. How do you say that really? Because they say it's the area of confluence, but they act like the confluence, that don't even make sense, was only from one direction, right? Confluence would indicate all, mixture, unfiltered, I would say, and not just converging in one area. Like converging, okay, then you could say this is a bottleneck where things converge. But for it to be greater than that, I don't know, man. It just seemed like you're trying to ignore that people migrated from other areas in Africa and only trying to act like these migrations could come from one area to create this area of what? I gotta Google that now. Y'all know how I be chilling. Yeah, exactly. Now let's look at the term. We need definition. All right, so look. I remember doing this before. A junction of two rivers, first of all, especially rivers of approximately equal width. Now, it's very good for my own knowledge. I love words and I like using them correctly. And when I got spidey senses about using a word wrong, and my spidey senses just went off. And they went off for a very good reason, because as we see, what we've been saying, man, beat the brakes off these clowns. Whenever somebody hits you with an area of confluence, tell them, shut up. That don't even mean that, bro. Look at the screen. An area of confluence is not what people implies when they say an area of confluence. I'm tired of this. Every time you scratch the surface and every time you get a little inclination just to look a little deeper, it confirms your suspicions. You be like, told you. So this is what I'm saying. In most of these genetic conversations that people have when they try to explain the genetic differences of ancient Egypt, they're going to say it's an area of confluence. And just from us trying to figure out words in the middle of the dialogue, you thinking that just like I just thought before I looked this word up because my spidey senses went off, I was thinking they're talking about convergence. Confluence and convergence is two different things. We probably know what converging upon something is, you know what I'm saying? And I think I know what that is, so I'm about to look that up too. That's going to not be a word. Converge. Or to tend to meet at a point. Man, I'm about to tell these dudes to shut up talking about this is an area of confluence that converges, so now ancient Egyptians ain't black. You don't even know English. I didn't know, and now I corrected myself, and I'm never letting nobody say that nonsense to me. So, because two rivers meet, what two rivers, first of all? Somebody tell me, I'm going back to the definition. We be hearing bullshit our whole lives. How many people are area confluence? Tell me I'm wrong, dog. I know y'all been knowing that, what y'all meant when y'all said it. Stop lying. Your ass was not meaning this if you wouldn't have used it for an explanation for why the ancient Egyptians ain't black. The junction of two rivers. I'm looking at the acting process of merging, but it comes from the junction of two rivers. So stop being on that nonsense shit, because that's very deceiving, because we got a river in the middle of the dialogue. The Nile River. See, you can't let people play you, bruh. These words, you can say, oh, I'm talking about the acting process of merging. Yeah, true. But you're using that, right? You're using that in a geographic location that literally has a river that everybody be sought after and went to. So your analogy that all of these people, look, check this out. You using it just to say a process of merging, then you have to take out anything you saying about coming to the river. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either it mean a junction of two rivers, or either you was talking about the process of merging. So let's go back to correct myself and say that all of the people was never talking about a conversion of two rivers. They're talking about a process of people merging. So then what then is their explanation for this migration into the Nile if it ain't to converge upon the river? But I think I gave my own self a little bit of clarity of that, and that's what they're gonna do. Knowing how the argument is gonna play out. Let's go look at this. A coming or flowing together, a meeting or a gathering at one point at the confluence of Native American, Hispanic, and Anglo cultures. That's how we're using this word most often. And to say that ancient Egypt was an area of a confluence that did not include no other Africans. So that goes back to my initial point. So then my initial argument is still mounted and my secondary argument is shelved. My initial argument against the area of confluence is this. If we saying like it was a gathering point, then how do we exclude the migrations from other Africans? I know how. We created a pseudo barrier. Y'all remember that? So in order to deconstruct that shit, you gotta go all the way up into it, and don't even be no punk. Just go all the way up into that. It's called getting to the bottom of it. This is why it is so, all right, thank you. I appreciate you, Bree. I came to that conclusion that I was just being too high strung on the first definition of it and how that was relevant to the argument. But to be fair, something has a second definition that's more suitable. I'm going to go back to my original argument, which was, how can this area of confluence exclude Black Africans? Right? But I appreciate y'all for allowing me to reconcile that with my own self and the assistance I got from the last Griot, Sot 12, Yurik, and others. Let me see. So this is Achilles, Tactius of Alexandria's, right? And he compared the herdsmen of the Delta to the Ethiopians and explained that they are blackish, like half-caste. This is Diop's words. I didn't have that source. Right. So when they talk about the Greeks, what the Greeks said, don't even fall for that nonsense. I guess nobody said, hey, yo, I want to debate. Give me the link. Because I did say let's debate on this video. Exactly. See? That's what I'm trying to say, bro. I'm going to go to that video to justify my inquiry. Because y'all going to see what I'm saying. I'm going to go exactly to when Christopher Ayers say that shit. And cats be lying. Watch this. Now we're going to go to the Christopher Ayers video where he's talking about the area of confluence. And you tell me he using it like, he's using it in a way that justifies my former presumptions. Watch this.
Or heard about a recent genetics article that makes the ancient Egyptians out to be Levantines.
Hold on, I'm going to just skip through it since I can see the text. I want to see when he say that. It might not even be in this quote. But I know it's going to come, it's right around here. I wish I had a faster way to get the transcript. Let me see, watch full video. Agree with what? What you talking about?
Levantines. Let me be very clear, these findings...
Yeah, the ancient Egyptians back to the... You know what? People start coming in that wasn't black African at about the third, fourth dynasty, bro. Probably before that. Like, that's known.
Come from one locale.
They wasn't running nothing. They was working. They was coming into something that was established.
Stretch of possible locales in northern Egypt, and the finds date well after the foundational periods of...
So he's basically debunking that video from the Kemetic Queen earlier, who was talking about that Suleiman et al. Study from 2017 that she didn't even know nothing all about, right? And he just saying it's rubbish. But let's see if he mentions this area of confluence.
Of ancient Egypt. It's somewhat as if, I was thinking of this particular image, rather than investigating DNA from a 17th century cemetery in Plymouth, we instead choose to investigate DNA from a later 19th century cemetery in South Boston. And then we conclude, having done that the United States was founded by people of Irish descent, and that Americans were predominantly are predominantly Irish. Well, that isn't necessarily how the writers of the article meant it to be interpreted, but that's certainly the way I've had people interpreting it to me. Even someone with a Coptic, seemed to be a Coptic last name from the sounds of things, berating me for being such a terrible human being all these years of my whole career for ever having thought of Egypt as being African. So anyway.
Okay, no, it is in this video though. Watch this. They are arguing about the book, but watch this. I kind of recall him talking about that. But I'm just skimming the text. Nevertheless, we can keep going. Because this argument is closed as far as we're concerned. It ain't nothing that the new Egypto trolls could really do. Convergence. Hold on.
Transformed a culture area, an interactive region of long-term cultural interchange and even cultural convergence.
All right, so I know he used one of the words. My memory be like whatever, but he used convergence. He didn't use the other word. So you're talking about a different document. He said cultural convergence. We was talking about conflation. Anyway, that was just my little linguistic learning. Y'all can help me learn. And I'm going to help y'all learn, so let's get back to this. I showed plenty of these, and I went through too much of this. It ain't no more on that, man. Well, we had 2 hours. Did nobody step up saying they wanted to do nothing? Yeah, he said cultural convergence, though. Right? So he must have been talking about cultural convergence. What's up with the people? Maybe we come back and do a because I can't go 4 hours no more. But I can come back and we could do a show talking about. I want to get some of y'all comments. I ain't really saying nothing that most of y'all don't know already. And there's a lot more to say on this fact. When we start talking about Kemet being, man, I'm about to go record some videos that ain't live, turn on my real camera and just talk about Egypt and post the videos, make them look like a documentary, you know, just on the GP. But when we talk about Kemet, they always tell you it was the black land because of the fertile silk. But I think it was some people over here that put it out there that it really ain't no source on that. Ain't no source on that. It ain't no ancient Egyptian source that say Kemet and even talking about the soil at all. It's probably one. And I think Christopher Withers showed it to me. But it wasn't in the sense of like the soil like that. It was like Happy was going to revitalize Sa'ant the Kemet. Right. Bring life to. So it is what it is. That's what they're going to say. If you look at Dr. Mario Beatty's work, he gives us that Kemet was a socio-geopolitical term that was brought upon by the encouragement of the Hyksos and people in the 12th dynasty for a need to say, no, this is us, we us. And y'all are something else. Politically and, you know, I don't know if he said ethnonymically. I don't think he did, but you know, it's not like an ethnonym. It was something that they stated in the 12th dynasty. I don't know what you're talking about, South 12. But that's not a real good argument. So I'm not even going to repeat it. Because normally when you say Greece was white, you ain't talking about every member that was in the population. Come on, man. Stop being stupid. When you say Mexico is Mexican, you ain't excluding Afro-Latinos. You just saying what it is by the government, and by the establishment and the foundational elements. So that's such a silly argument, bro. Like, sometimes people waste their time typing shit. And let me know about your age range or the age of your mentality when you say shit like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it a buck. So let me show you something. It's going to make you feel hella stupid. I'm going to type in Harkuf. I made a song called Harkuf Translation. So you can see what I mean. If anybody who studies ancient Egypt denies that there were people there that wasn't black since early times, they don't know the history. But the history is showing that these people was a problem and all they wanted to do was get them out of there. So let me start. I'm not going to go into that. Come on, stop being childish, Shot 12. You might be on your high school level with it. So shout out to you for watching the show. But step your game up. Let me see. So this is Harkuf, right? But I don't want to come to the wiki. I want to show y'all some of his translations. We dealing with about the 6th dynasty, right? Damn, why they doing this? Everything ain't safe. Let's see if I can find it from a safe source. All right, let me see. Oh, you talking to South 12. Oh. So they're showing you out of the book. But let me show you. If I can go back a page. Did they just start right here? Because this is the part. Then the foreign chiefs of what? Urthet. Where that's at? That's in the south. Wawat. Where is that at? That's in the south. Yam. Where is that at? That's in the south. Mija. Where is that at? That's in the south. Notice there's a footnote on the word chiefs, behind the word chiefs. Because I'm pretty sure she's going to try to, this is ancient Egyptian literature, this is Merriam-Webster. I'm pretty sure she's going to try to minimize their status. But what did they do? They cut the timber for them. I did it all in 1 year. I floated a large block for the pyramid. So they say he loaded a very large granite blocks for the pyramid. That ain't what we're looking for, but I want to show you this other part of the same story. Right? Because he's talking about why he's in those southern areas. And if I just could show this to you, if not, I'm going to have to go to the TLA. TLA going to be quicker. Probably not. It's going to be right here. All right, yeah. I can just read it from this. Here you go. Now look. His Majesty sent me a second time alone. I went by way of Elephantine Road and returned via the land of Urthet, Makher and Teres, or Makher and Teres of Urthet at the end of the voyage of 8 months. I returned carrying tribute of this land in great numbers of a kind which nobody had ever brought to Egypt before. I returned coming home from camp of the chief of Setu and Urthet after having explored their land. You will find no other sole companion chief of the interpreters who has reached so far into the land of Yam. Right? Well, let's see something. Because we're not necessarily talking about how fond of, let me see, we're not necessarily talking about how fond of the Southerners they were and Southern products they were in the early dynasties. You were questioning about me saying something about their sentiment towards Northerners in this time period. So I'm about to give you that. Winning translations. What? So you go to the autobiography of Winnie, which is going to be a little bit before that, bro. And it's going to tell you how they felt about people. Dang, everything, all these sources say they're not safe. But I'm still gonna find it. I ain't tripping. They're gonna tell you about all the people coming in at that time period. Okay, this is the 5th, 6th dynasty. 6th dynasty, okay, look. Now, I'm just going to read. Oh, my gosh. Let me see if I can find the text. I'm going to find one on here and just go down. Lithium. So I got to find it in lithium again. Or whatever. I can't pronounce the German. Here it goes. It's better on Internet Archive. Excuse me. I'm doing too much. Now watch this. Because we about to learn about, this is for SOT 12, this is teaching for you about exactly how they felt about people converging on Egypt in the early kingdom. And yes, there were people there since the old kingdom. And this story is going to teach you exactly what they thought about them. Here we go right here. Autobiography of Winnie. You see that? We can look at the primaries if you want, but let me break this down for you. Some damn Asiatic sand dwellers don't come in. You know who Asiatic sand dwellers is? Those is people from the Levant. Those is people from the Mediterranean. Those is people with Mediterranean DNA. This is what I'm telling you. And who did they go to get to help them with these people? They went to the South. They went to get more Black Africans, people with, what you want to say, what's Black African DNA? They went and got more E1B1A. They went and got all that, right? For real. Let me show you in their own words, because you're going to think I'm making this stuff up. Now, this old book is even going to go out their way to let you know who we dealing with here and who these people were coming into Egypt at this time. Now, let's go right here. Know what does it say right here? When His Majesty took action against the Asiatic sand dwellers. Did I make that up? His Majesty made an army of many tens of thousands from Upper Egypt. Where's Upper Egypt? That's where they just said when you go to the south, you see Black people. Damn, they just told you that in one sentence and beat the damn brakes off you. So yeah, it was Asiatic sand dwellers there. They wasn't fucking with that. I didn't make that up. I'm showing you the facts. This is Magi archers. Now check this out. When His Majesty took action against the Asiatic sand dwellers, His Majesty made an army of many tens of thousands from Upper Egypt, but guess where else? From Yebu in the south to Medinet in the north, from Lower Egypt, from all of the two sides of the house, and from Shajir to Kin Shidru, and from Erthet, Nubians, Mijah Nubians, Yam Nubians, Wawat Nubians, Kakau Nubians, and from Timahu land. Oh, it ain't no mercenaries going down, because they tell the stories of how it went down. So let's just be clear right here. When you want to say, oh, it's weird that you admit that there was, they was getting the brakes beat off them. They was like, man, it was the chief goal of the Pharaoh, a lot of the pharaohs, to keep these Asiatic sand dwellers out of Egypt. Or to keep, if you have them in Egypt, they need to be on our terms. But look at this. This is the old kingdom you talk about. So should we read on? Look, His Majesty sent me. This is why you want to know the autobiography of Winnie when you want to start talking about black people in Egypt. His Majesty sent me at the head of this army. There being counts, royal seal bearers, sole companions of the palace, chieftains, mayors of the town of Upper and Lower Egypt, companions, scout leaders, chief priests of Upper and Lower Egypt, and the chief district officials at the head of the troop of Upper and Lower Egypt, from the villages of the towns that were governed. What's next? And from the Nubians of those foreign lands. So let's just talk about it. Because guess what he don't got? Well, I don't want to say that. He got a sole companion, he got a seal bearer, he got the palace chieftains, the mayors. So he got all of this officials. He got companions, the scout leaders, the chief priest, but who the fighting force? Now he says, and the chief district officials at the head of the troops of Upper and Lower Egypt. So that's who he had fighting with Egypt, but they wasn't enough. So he had to go down to Egypt and down to Ta-Nehisi and get these Nubians. And it says, of those foreign lands that he cited earlier. I was the one who commanded them while my rank was that of overseer of royal tenants because of my rectitude, so that no one attacked his fellow, so that no one seized a loaf of sandals from a traveler, so that no one took a cloth from any town, so that no one took a goat from anywhere. Right? So what happened? Let's read. This army returned safely. It had ravaged the sand dwellers' land. This army returned safely. It had flattened the sand dwellers' land. This army returned safely. It had sacked its strongholds. This army returned safely. It had cut down its figs, its vines. This army returned safely. It had thrown fire into its mansions. This army returned safely. It had slain its troops by the many tens of thousands. This army returned safely. It had carried off many troops as captives. His Majesty praised me for it beyond anything. His Majesty sent me to lead the 5 armies. Army 5 times. I'm tripping. To attack the land of the sand dwellers. Why? Why is he doing this? To keep them up out of Egypt. So it says, told there were marauders among these foresters at the nose of the Gazelle Head. I crossed in the ships with these troops, and I made a landing in the back of the height of the mountain range to the north of the land of the sand dwellers. After half of his army was on the road, I came and caught them and slew every marauder amongst them. The foreign chiefs of Earthat, Wawet, Yam, and Mijat cut timber for them. I wonder what that means. I would love to see the meta for that. And I did it all over 1 year, floated there, and then he brought back that block of that pyramid for the pyramid. We heard about that, right? And so they was fighting with people you call Nubians against Asiatic sand dwellers, right? King Jack, come on, man. We just reading what the books say. But if you want to have a linguistic conversation, there's some merit to what you're saying about Egypt, the term Egypt, right? I'm just not going to change it to Kemet just to be hella pseudo on YouTube every time when the books say Egypt. But in my own discourse, I distinguish between the two when it's necessary. Now, this story and the story of the one before time shows a relationship with the South in helping fight off those of the North, but I'm going to take you to a better source now. It's time for the TLA. And I'm talking to my mouth getting dry. So I don't know what's up with that. In the TLA, we're going to show you a different story. Because this is when the Asiatic, this is right coming up out of the old kingdom. And them Asiatic sand dwellers had just got way too plentiful. So this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to go, I ain't going to do A'amu. Let's do A'amu. Let me see. Is that the right one? All right, so look. Now here's something funnier to note. This is why Brother Reggie has some merit to what he's saying about A'amu don't really mean Asiatic like that. It just means foreigner. But I think there's some confusion between this term that we find one attestation to, where A'am means the throwing stick, the boomerang, the throw stick is called a A'am. And so when we know that the throwing stick means something foreigner, and then we know that the A'amu are, he said, well, that just means foreigners then. I understand that. But it's also in the sense of these particular foreigners right here, where it says of things, or it says in Asiatic. A'amu, A'am, and here we see A'amu. Let's find A'amet, Asiatic woman, right? 7 attestations. For this one, we see 107, and I'm going to go into this to find a particular text. And the text, now let's go back. See, 6th dynasty. His Majesty of my Lord also sent me to the land of the Asiatics to bring him. This is just what we was just reading. Peppy, all right, this is right. His self-convenient carpenter worker, overseer, auntie who had been building. All right, yeah. Well, if this isn't what we was just reading, this is another trip in the 6th dynasty. Peppy Naked, right, to the south, but he went to the land of the Asiatics too, and then to Punt. No, the Asiatics belonging to the same dwellers had slain him in his division of the expedition that was with him. 6th dynasty. So yeah, it was now. This is on the expedition, so let's still say there's no merit that they're inside of Egypt. The Asiatics were driven away, made to flee, while I slew the men amongst them with the divisions of expeditions that was with me. This Peppy Naked. All right, the secretary was Asian. I punished for him Asiatic. This is the 12th dynasty, right? But we're trying to find this one statement. And we're going to see an explanation. It's from a story. It's not sent away. It is, what's that story I'm trying to pull up, man? They call it the story when everything went bad in the 12th dynasty. Let me see. I'll find it. Man, y'all know that story. I forgot what it's called about the 12th dynasty. I guess I'm getting tired of talking. Hey, 63 people in the building this site. Shout out to y'all. Give up a like or a comment. Give up a like or a comment. Do something. Holla at your boy. You know what? You can do the cash app. You want to see more shows like this that give you irrefutable sources on how to bring that Black Egypt thing out here. How to have that discourse. Watch this show. But I'm getting tired of talking though. Somebody got something to say, tell me to put up a link. If not, I'm just gonna let me check my phone, make sure I ain't got no business I ain't tending to. We're gonna keep it popping. Don't go nowhere. Stop playing. I'm not winding down. Because normally I used to just order my lunch and keep it popping. But you know, I could start back editing. Let me see. My manufacturer in China hit me up like, yo, it's on. And then I had made a mistake, dude. And they about to take all the product out of each box and change something. and send them. I'm like, y'all do real ass work. But I made a straight mistake. But mistakes, you know, when you wear a hella hat, you can make mistakes. Damn. Somebody said put up the link. All right, let's see how many people, you know, I'm just saying, I feel you. Thank you, Solomon. Put up the link. What's up? Just streaming. Oh. Okay, yeah. No, my wife just stepped in, see? So that's perfect timing. Oh, somebody just sent me with the Cash App. Shout out to y'all. Let me put that on the screen. Shout out to whoever just put me with the Cash App. Hold on. That's the Cash App. Yeah, if y'all want to see more shows like this, support. Let me give somebody a shout out. Because, you know, I can't monetize all my shows because sometimes I want to show play content that'll get me in trouble. So let me say shout out to whoever just sent this Cash App. Let me see. I got that old phone moving slow though. Man, we ain't Roosevelt. Shout out for the Cash App. Straight up. That was a cool Cash App too. Appreciate you. Okay. Yeah. And we gonna go and get up out of here. I'm gonna be back though. I got some time. I just feel like talking too much. Solomon, we're gonna come back and put up the link. All right. Peace, peace, peace.